Hello and welcome to the Orchid Hut. If you're new here, my name is Dana. Thank you for joining me. Today's video is going to be about a Vanda. Now that's a little bit of a change of pace. I believe this is the first video that I've done on a Vanda. So today's story is sort of a sad story about two things that didn't go right with this orchid, but it has a happy ending. So I want to share the story of this Vanda with you. I purchased this Vanda probably in about March of this year, so 2021. So I have not had this orchid for a full year. And when I purchased it, it was an online purchase, and I received it in a pot with some rather poor media. So I decided to immediately repot it into a pot of my own. I wanted to try growing Vandas in pots. And I had it that way for a couple of weeks, and then I noticed, it had a case of crown rot. Now, I think that it probably had the crown rot starting either right before shipment or during shipment, because it sort of progressed rather rapidly once I only had it about 7 or 10 days. So the first thing I thought is okay, well, I'm gonna need to do something about this crown rot. So I went on YouTube and I watched every other orchid grower's video about what to do with the Vanda that has crown rot. And then I had to decide on my own, out of everyone's different methods, what I wanted to do to try to save my orchid, because it was progressing pretty rapidly and I needed to do something. The crown rot had started about right here, and it was rapidly working its way down the stem. So I decided to take my very sharp pruners and I cut off the top 4 leaves of this Vanda. And then there was still a little bit of tissue that needed to be cut away. I needed a margin, into the good tissue that was left. And so then I had to cut off another 2 leaves. So all in all, I cut off the top 6 leaves of this orchid. And then I put hydrogen peroxide on the cut, and then I took some cinnamon and I touched the top of the stem where it had been cut. And then simultaneously, I was fearing that I was losing the roots down inside the pot. I think my environment is probably just too humid and moist for keeping Vanda roots down in a pot. So I thought, okay, this orchid's gonna have to bounce back. I may as well just try to rescue it all at once. So I transferred the orchid to this basket, and inside the basket is just some really large pieces of cork, as well as some large pieces of charcoal. And then there is the tiniest bit of sphagnum moss at the bottom, just so that the rest of the particles don't fall through. So there's kind of like a mat of moss at the bottom, and then the cork and charcoal are on top. And so the roots, for the most part, are free. And you can see that, its root system is not great. It has one root here supporting it, and then it has some other roots out of the bottom of the pot that are much older that are supporting it. Okay, so this orchid had a recovery to make. And lo and behold, it has made a recovery. But I was really fortunate. It regrew the crown as if nothing had happened to it. Now, the first 2 leaves that were grown after I had put the cinnamon there, they, had been affected by that cinnamon. So you can tell that this one, the edge of this one, is almost like it has been burned by the cinnamon. And it, of course, did not develop into a normal-sized leaf. There was another one on the other side that did the same thing, although it's much smaller now, and the rest of the crown has kind of grown through that leaf. And then, beyond that, the crown just redeveloped itself. So over the last few months it grew this leaf, which is not full size, but then it grew this leaf, which is closer to full size, and now it has even 2 more leaves coming out of the crown. So this orchid, I think, will make a full recovery from both the crown rot and my bad judgment in how to pot it when I first initially had it. And I'm hoping next spring it will continue to grow. Maybe I will get a bloom from it at some point. And let me show you, since it's such a survivor, this is Coltana Green Gold crossed with Tessellata. So I don't know if this orchid has a hybrid name of its own, but that is the cross and what the flower should look like. I'm hoping it blooms sometime soon for me. So this was a story that started off very badly, but I believe it will ultimately have a good outcome. Now the next stop for this orchid is my garage, because we are getting some very cold weather through the weekend and it needs to dry out a bit and hang out in the garage until the temperatures warm back up. So thanks for watching. If you learned something or enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, and the subscribe button will be in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. Thanks so much for watching, and thank you to all of the new subscribers. Please feel free to introduce yourself in a comment below one of the videos. Talk to you next time.